morning. Let's just wait and see if anybody hops on. Got a bit of a change of location this week. The weather has been so awful here in Edinburgh, and today is no exception. It's absolutely chucking it down. And morning. And so the room that I usually do these lives from, it was really dark. So I'm out of breath because I've been moving furniture around to try and get near to the window to get a bit more light, because I want to show you lots of yarny things. And yeah, it's no good if we're kind of in the dark. So that's the reason for a bit of a different location this morning. So not only have I had to do like furniture moving, I've also had a little bit of a cake. Well, not a cake disaster. If you've not watched these lives before, the idea behind it, I sort of call them knits and cake for breakfast, is because before lockdown I was hosting actually 2 weekly knit nights on a Wednesday, and I would always bake cake and there would be leftovers. So on a Thursday I would, after dropping my kids off at school, come back home and, well, it's nearly the weekend, I'll have some leftover cake for my breakfast. So I've been trying to get back into the habit of still baking on a Wednesday, because it's nice to have something homemade in the house. So the actual baking this week didn't go too badly. I decided just to make a Victoria sponge. So I do this recipe where you weigh, if you want one like this size, you weigh 3 eggs, and then however much they weigh, you put in the same amount of all the other ingredients. So I think these ones weighed like 180 grams or something, the 3 eggs. So I used 180 grams of butter and 180 grams of caster sugar, and then my 3 eggs, and then the flour, 180 grams, and maybe a bit of splash of milk just to loosen it up a little bit. And it always comes out really well, and it's a good one for kids because it's dead easy. They just have to weigh the eggs and then they can work out, and you can do it in smaller quantities then, or you could sort of scale it up. So the actual sponge, which I made yesterday, came out really nicely. Then this morning, when I came to wanting to put stuff in the middle and on the top, I didn't have any icing sugar, which I didn't realise. So then when I went to get jam, there was hardly any left. So I have basically cut a slice out of the cake of the 2 sponges and put jam only in this slice because there's not enough jam for the whole cake. So that is a lesson to check the ingredients before you start. I know that recipe books tell you to do that, but I'm not very good at doing that. I just kind of get stuff out as I'm going. So yeah, it's a little bit of a sad looking Victoria sponge in that regard, although the actual sponge is quite nice. So far this morning, yeah, not going that well. Although I have got cake to eat, so that's always a good thing. So as well as eating some cake for my breakfast on a Thursday, I wanted to show you what I've been working on this week. So you might have heard about the virtual Yorkshire Yarn Festival that's happening on Saturday. I'm taking part in it this time. So my slot, which will be on Yorkshire Yarn Fest's Instagram Live, is at 10:25 AM on Saturday morning. And I'm going to have lots of lovely shawl kits and a couple of special offers on pattern bundles. So I've been working furiously on this, which is a new sample of my Lowy shawl, which was originally in Amarisu magazine 2 summers ago. So this is the original sample here. I think I've got it upside down, which was done in lace weight. So I wanted to make a lighter version sorry, this is a lighter version. I wanted to make a sort of more substantial version for colder weather. So I'm using Jamieson and Smith's 2-ply jumper weight, and it's got this main section which is a sideways triangle. So I'm nearly finished, but you know, it's Thursday and the show is on Saturday and I have to get this finished. So last night I was up very late working away and I still didn't get this bit finished, but I will have it done. So it's got this section, then it's got another section of this where you pick up the stitches, and then you use a contrast colour. So on this sample it's got the white or the cream, but on this pink one I'm going to use the orange with the pink, which I love, that combination. So that's the one the sample that I'm making. But when I have the kits on Saturday, which will be in my folksy shop, I'll have that option, pink and orange, but I will also have a sort of grello option with the grey as the main colour and the yellow mustard as the contrast, and I might also be able to have some that are the other way around. Depends how many balls of yarn I've got. So there's that one, or the other option that I've got is this lovely teal bluey green combo. So again, this one could be that you have the dark blue teal as the main and then this one as the contrast, or you could have it the other way around. I think it depends what colour you want to have nearest to your face when you're wearing it. If you want to have the paler one, depending on what you suit, but you'll be able to have them or have sort of different amounts of them available in different options. So that's what I'm working on. So I suspect I'm going to have another late night tonight knitting on that. But once I get this main triangle done, then the other sections are not so big. I have to pick up stitches and knit on the bottom of the triangle. So this has got this garter rib with eyelets, and I have been marking the edge with stitch markers to help me stay motivated. So every time I do a repeat I get to add a stitch marker, which is very satisfying. So that's one thing that I'll have as part of the Yorkshire Yarn Fest on Saturday. The other thing that I've been doing this week is, if you've seen my grid, you'll have seen me posting these little swatches of, this is Mohair Silk from Rico Yarns. So here's the, I don't know if you're going to be able to see that label. This one's called Peach. So it's the Mohair Silk held with the Jamieson Smith lace weight. So I haven't knitted up this one yet, but I'm looking forward to seeing how that's going to come out. So I've got yellowy peach, and I've got a pale pink. This one's sort of nice and marled. I think that's going to come out beautifully. And then I've got a sort of duck egg pale blue, and then that same Jamieson and Smith paired with the grey Mohair Silk, which I think will be really beautifully subtle. And then these ones are the swatches that I've knitted up already. So there's a tealy blue and a sort of more maybe royal blue, you might call it, and then a deep red, and this one which is a purpley, it's much more marled. Morning, I can see some new people joining. Yeah, that one's really marled. I'll show you that side, it's lovely. So I've still got some of those to knit, but I don't know if you've tried knitting with yarn held double, sometimes, like I've knitted this jumper, which is a design that I'm working on, and this one actually had several strands because it was made with very, very fine lace weight. I think weaving yarn somebody gave me, like really vintage from the 1950s weaving yarn. So I had to hold about 4 strands together, and so sometimes there's little things that you learn, let's say, as you're knitting with strands held together. One thing is about just keeping an eye out for dropping one of the strands. So like, you know, you end up splitting the 2 strands and only knitting with one. And just sort of, just have to keep a wee eye out, because, you know, if it's just a couple of rows below, it's easy to drop down and pick up back up. But if it's quite far down, you have to kind of weigh up, is it worth dropping all that way to pick it up, or just leaving it? So I've actually, this week's blog post is a kind of rundown of top tips, 5 top tips about knitting with yarn held double. And one of the other things that I mention in there, it's over on the website, is about what needles you use. So I actually started off knitting these swatches on my wooden Knit Pro needles, which were fine. And then that I wanted to take some photographs, and the higher sharps are a bit more photogenic because they're this silver colour. So I put the swatch, whichever swatch I was knitting, onto these, thinking I don't think they'll be very good to knit with this, because I think they might end up splitting the 2 strands. But actually they didn't, and they were much quicker. I don't know if it's just to do with the fact they're metal rather than the wooden needles. They're a bit slippier, and I found it easier. So one of the tips over in the blog post is about, you know, just maybe changing up your needles and just seeing what feels better when you're knitting. You know, if you've got a variety of needles. I'm lucky I've got a few different options, mostly because I always have lots of whips on the go at once. I have quite a few sets of needles, and was it last year I got the Leica wooden needles set for my birthday, which is lovely. So I do have a few different needle options, but I thought it was interesting because what I thought about these pointy metal ones, what didn't happen, they didn't split the yarn, and actually it was easier to knit with them. So that's something to think about if you've struggled a wee bit with knitting with yarns held double. But go over to the blog, it's maddieharveydesigns.com, and you can click. Oh, you've never thought about which needles are more photogenic? I know, it's just because I like grey things as my sort of background colour in my Instagram grid. So the Knit Pro, I've got the Symphony ones, and they're sort of like quite autumnally colours, warm colours, and it doesn't quite fit in. So sometimes what I do is I swap the needles to either these ones or my Leica needles, which are the grey wooden ones. I know, is it a bit vain? Maybe. It just looks nicer if things are a bit more, what's the word, ordered, shall we say. So I've got a lot of knitting to do before Saturday. I've got 4 more of these swatches, and I've got my Lowy shawl to finish. So I think I'm going to have sore shoulders come Saturday. And then, I know, there's one more thing I wanted to show you, which was, I didn't actually show you the Lowy shawl, which is what these swatches are for. Not Lowy, Lonin. See, I've got 2 shawls that both start with an L. It's very confusing. So this is Lonin. It's a textured pattern with slip stitches and cables, and these little motifs, and eyelets. Yeah, I'll need a heat pad for my shoulders, Ellen, yeah. I'll be sitting on the sofa with them stuffed down the back like that, and I'll not be able to knit for a week after or something, and I'll need to start doing my physio exercises again. So this is Lonin, and it's knitted with mohair lace, held with another strand of lace weight yarn. So that's what all those swatches are for. So those kits will be in my folksy shop for the Yorkshire Yarn Festival on Saturday. And then the last thing, which I have left the yarn right over on the table there because I was in such a flap about moving the furniture around, but never mind, is my Winter Lights shawl, which is a big triangular shawl knitted with 3 20-gram mini skeins or 6 10-gram. It's good for leftovers. And the yarn here is Rusty Ferret, and you get the main skein and then 3 mini skeins, and it's a light one and then a sort of medium speckledy one and a dark one, and it has tassels. I love tassels. So I'll have kits, pre-orders for kits, because Leona dyes them to order, but she is going to be doing it next week, so if you order one of these over the weekend, you'll hopefully get it by the end of the week. That's my phone ringing. So that's the 3 shawl kits that I'll have on Saturday, and my slot is at 10:25 on Instagram Live on the Yorkshire Yarn Fest's Instagram. But I will also, when you do it, you record the Instagram Live, so I'll repost it later. And there's lots of other lovely vendors going to be there. So if you either go to Yorkshire Yarn Fest's Instagram or the website, I think it's just yorkshireyarnfest.com, then you'll be able to have a look at all the other vendors. Anyway, it looks like it's stopped raining now here in Edinburgh, but I'm sure it won't be long before it starts again. So I'll let you get on with your Thursday, and I will see you next week. Bye!